for those of you who are not aware, there's a war going on. Okay? Like Rick Van Winkle, he woke up after 20 years. Maybe you just woke up, you don't know there's been a war going on. Yeah, it's a war against a disease known as COVID. Hold it, what am I saying? Sorry, no, I'll take that back. No, that's something that happened a long, long time ago. A disease that killed trillions of people, but it's been a while now. Nobody remembers that anymore. No, there's another war going on closer, in fact, here in Europe, just in case you didn't hear, right? It's a war between the United States and Germany, and it's about to be over. Germany has pulled out the white flag and surrendered, okay? And that war is practically over. There are some more things to do, but essentially, Germany has capitulated. And what it is that they forced some draconian conditions upon Germany. And because of that, one of the things that happened, they had to shut a pipeline. Cost, I think, around 12 billion bucks. And that's dead. So they forced that down. And they forced also Germany to stop a banking system, transfer of money, international money known as SWIFT. They forced Germany to increase their defense budget by $112 billion and some other draconian conditions. Essentially, Germany has capitulated. And the interesting part is they did it without firing a single shot and losing a single man. I think it's the first time in history where one country takes over another without losing a man or firing a shot. That's incredible. First time in history, probably. Anyways, there's also a little skirmish in a little country out there called Ukraine, and Russians are killing Russians over there. Apparently, there's a province of Russia that wants to become a new country. It wants to secede from the Union, and so the Russians are killing Russians there. And because of all these wars, people are starting to ask questions about the unthinkable. The nuclear war, the Third World War. Will we ever use the nukes? And for the politicians, it's pretty good for people to talk about that because then they forget about the economy. It keeps their mind busy on something else. And so people are thinking about nukes. Will we ever throw them? Do we have any protection against them? One fellow today sent me a note and he asked about the Iron Dome. Supposedly a protection against nuclear bombs. And so he asked me, does the Iron Dome protect us against missiles in general terms? Maybe he meant more in particular, whether it protects us against nukes coming in those missiles, right? Maybe that was the issue. And so I told him what you see there. I said they're designed for short range. This Iron Dome protection, right? It's designed for short range, low altitude, and small missiles, small UFOs. Okay, and they can be overcome. This defense system can be overcome by shooting many missiles. So imagine someone throwing one ball and you have a baseball bat and you hit that ball. Well, that's pretty good. Maybe hit a home run. But imagine if they throw 10 balls at you. Well, you can't hit all 10 of them. And that's one of the problems with this missile defense system. And the other one is modern ICBMs, I don't know if all of them, but a lot of them are designed with multiple warheads. So when they come up, when it enters the space where it's supposed to hit, it breaks up in several bombs. So you got like 10 bombs being sent everywhere upon reentry. And, the protection there, even if you had some kind of protection, might be able to protect against one of the missiles, maybe a couple, but not against several of them. Okay, so some of those will hit their target. Okay, so if you think that you have some kind of umbrella that is going to protect you against nuclear missiles, well, maybe think again. Okay, then part of it is the speed of the incoming missile, how fast it's going. Can the shield protect you against something that's going very fast? Well, some people make the mousetraps, and other people figure out a way out of it. And so every side develops this, has this arms race. They develop antidotes to new weaponry. And it's just an ongoing thing, And so I don't think you can eventually protect against all this stuff, no matter what you do, no matter how smart your engineers are, your physicists, technicians, can't protect against everything. And I doubt very much against nuclear weapons. And then the last point there is that the public knows relatively little, and I mean by that the news organizations that print all these news and do the research, they don't have the details um, of some of these weapons. That information is not publicly available. Very few people know about them. They sign confidential and secret agreements and et cetera, right? And so we don't really know what kind of problems they might have, so we don't know everything that we need to know about them. So if you want to take over the world like Pinky and the Brain, well, think again. You can throw the bombs, but you may not be able to protect yourself against bombs, okay? Because there is no way of protecting against that. Now, some time ago, what was it, 1983, we had Reagan, and he kickstarted the famous Star Wars. And that was a Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, okay? And, that lasted for about 10 years. When they finally canned it, they said, well, it's no good. They couldn't protect themselves against Russian missiles, okay? So Clinton stopped that. And then they had other things going on in between, but up to 2019, Trump signs the NDA, the National Defense Authorization Act. And with that, he started the thing again. In other words, the United States is developing weapons and anti-weapons, defense systems, and the Russians are certainly doing the same thing. And a lot of that stuff is secret. We don't really know all of what's happening there. Only a few people up there in the high places know about it. But I'm saying a lot of that is irrelevant anyways, because what's the deal? The deal is that, as you can see, we have satellites there running around the world. And, with a satellite, you can kill other satellites. You have killer satellites, okay? And when you have that, you have no more internet. Forget about the bombs, forget about the nukes. In fact, hopefully, if you're going to die, you better die with a nuke because it's instantaneous, unless you're far away and you get radiated. But if it hits you, it's over for you, right? We're done. You never have to worry about it again. But if they kill the satellites, it's going to be a slow, painful death, which is going to be starvation, because suddenly there will be no money on the planet. All our money now is on the internet. They kill the satellites, they kill the internet. And you can live without water, you can live without food, you can live without air, but no one can live without the internet. Okay, so if they happen to kill the internet because they start messing around with the satellites, and I think the United States and Russia both can do that, and maybe the Chinese, maybe some other country, Japan, India, I don't know. Once they get up there in space and they start killing the satellites, it's all over. Because they kill the internet, and the internet's where all the money is. It's all abstractions, right? Anyways, the war out there, all these wars, they're good, especially the talk about nukes. That's very good for presidents and other leaders, right? Politicians. And, for a president to be president during a war president, that's good until he loses. If he loses, all bets are off. But as long as he's not losing, the people stand behind him, in Argentina, we had the military takeover, coup d'etat, sponsored by the United States, by the way, and they overthrew the constitutional government. And there was this fellow, there was a succession of presidents, all military folk. One was Galtieri, he was the last guy. And Galtieri started a war, the Falkland War, Malvinas War, as we call it. And he starts this war, the Falkland War, and the people were all behind him. They forgot all the tortures, all the things that the military had done, and they stood behind him because it was, all this nationalism going on. Well, that lasted only until they lost the war. then they wanted to wring his neck. They wanted to hang all these military guys, because not only did they lose the war, but now the notions that the military had tortured and all the problems that people had came back. And so right now people are forgetting economics and they're concentrating on wars and nukes and stuff like that. And that's good for a politician. It's also good because people stand behind them. Okay? And a lot of these people have learned from the master of them all, and that was Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli wrote a book, his name titled *The Prince*. Apparently, it was based on, in general terms, on Caesar Borgia, who was the son of a pope, Alexander Borgia, and they were of Spanish descent. And Caesar Borgia was like the perfect politician. He knew how to handle people from up there. And what Machiavelli, his main argument was that, that it's better for a politician to have people fear him than to love him. Okay, so if you're a politician up there, you don't want people to love you. You want people to fear you. Not so much that they hate you, but just enough that they fear you. And one of the masters of that was Stalin. Stalin, he commanded respect. And the way he commanded respect was he would kill the people around him. His ministers, especially people who were, who came up the ranks with him. You had people like Kamenev and Zinoviev, who were right-hand people of Lenin. When Lenin died, Stalin came up the ranks, and he pushed these guys aside and eventually had them killed, because these were at the same level as he was originally, and he kind of had to get rid of them because these people thought that they could be, on a par with him. So he had to get rid of them. And what he did, he put new people, to be his ministers and so on. And when those came a little too close to him or started taking some attributes that they shouldn't have, he had them killed. In fact, there's, I think I got it here. They had a lot of the pictures, famous pictures of Stalin, where people disappear from the pictures. And here you see a couple examples of that. You've got one fellow there who apparently fell into the pool, into the water. And in the days of Lenin, you had this fellow also disappear there because he wasn't considered communist enough or pro-Stalin enough. So, people like Stalin, they followed Machiavelli. And a lot of people like Biden, all those, as far as I know, all of them have read or at least know about Machiavelli and his way of running government. It says you got to have people fear you. Okay? And that's one of the reasons, these guys talk and you hear them on the news every day saying, oh, we're going to kill you and you better come down and discuss with us or we'll make life difficult on you. They have to be tough. And so people think, oh, I got a tough president. I've got a tough commander out there. And, when they sit down at the table, they talk a little differently maybe, And one of the questions that you should ponder is, why aren't those discussions between countries, why aren't they public? Why are they always, absolutely always in secret? So they have all these dealings in secret. The press is not even allowed there, right? And they have all these discussions in secret. Then they come out and they tell the public whatever they want. Each side tells their people whatever they want. And you say, why aren't those conversations public? I mean, if they're going to discuss what one country proposes and what the other one proposes in exchange, what the back and forth is, why aren't we all privy to all that information? Why is that all secret? Think about that, okay? Anyways, they have to they have to have all these discussions. On the one hand, they also have to have people fear them to a great extent. And again, as long as people like Biden, they're war presidents and the war lasts, and he doesn't lose the war, well, he's doing okay. And the same goes for Putin on the other side. As long as he doesn't lose the war, he's more or less okay. And I think he's in a tougher situation. I think whether Putin wins or loses, he's going to lose here, He's going to be in bad shape either way. I think he can't win no matter what he does. He's in a tough situation. Okay, anyways, that's more or less what's going on out there in the world. Incidentally, talking about Machiavelli and how the people up there really think. You've got the case of Stalin again, and he had a famous saying, which I absolutely love. It shows how cynical he was. And it goes something like this. He says, the loss of one man, if one man dies, that's a tragedy. If 1 million people die, that's a statistic. So he could care less how many people, how many peasants died in the fields out there, starving or whatever. He could care less. And politicians are like that. You have to be like that if you're a politician. You got a tough situation. You got to look the other way and say, well, that's just a statistic. He was such a kind-hearted person as a dad. His oldest son tried to commit suicide many times. And he ended up in the hospital a couple times. I don't know exactly what he tried to do. But Stalin said about that, he said, he can't even do that right. That was his comment. Okay, one fellow says here, he says, the population has not gone up linearly like that. I was showing a rise in population and then collapse and so on. In fact, I was showing that, at least since the 19th century, population on Earth has gone from 1 billion to 8 billion. Now that's a big jump in just 100 years. We haven't had that many people in the rest of humanity almost, you know. And so he says it's cyclic. Uh-huh. During the Dark Ages, the population peaked and then went down with the plague. Population goes up and down in a cycle. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This fellow knows very little about demographics, hasn't done any research, obviously. Yeah, in the 14th century, there was a plague, apparently a bubonic plague. Mid-century killed maybe half to maybe one-third of the population of Europe. Those are the numbers based on the little towns they showed in the books, how many people died. So they collected a lot of these books and they said, well, it looks like maybe one-third to one-half of the population of Europe died. And but the population was very young in those days. Everybody died at the age of 20, you know, on an average. People died very young, especially babies. They died a lot because they got sick with traditional, you know, childhood diseases. And so they would die. And a lot of people would die in wars also, you know, because it was man-to-man combat. And also because sickness and war go together. You know, you have sickness in war, you kill more soldiers probably than with bullets or arrows or whatever. But that happened in 14th century, and population picked up real quick because the population was young. That's a totally different situation than what happened since 1963, which is when the population pyramid for the whole planet, for our planet as a whole, overturned. And right now the problem is we have older and older people in the world, people like me, and fewer younger people, you know, age 20 and whatever. So we have a different situation. Our population pyramid has overturned, and there is absolutely no way of overturning it again. Nothing humans can do. Mark my word, nothing humans can do to get the ball rolling again, to have people have children again. Right now, the growth, the birth rate, the growth rate is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, as you can see in the chart there. And if everything goes according to plan, according to how it's going now, we probably won't, by mid-century we should reach zero population growth. We will reach a zenith of the number of people the most people we've ever had on Earth. And then from there it's going to be all the way down. And I think it's going to happen way before mid-century. I don't think we're going to make it to mid-century at all, but that's just my take on that. But for sure, there's no way we can overturn the population pyramid again. It's overturned now, it's standing on its head, and now what's going to happen, instead of being like this, it's like this, okay, or getting to be like that. That means there's going to be more older people, fewer younger people, and once those older people start dying and we're not producing new younger people, that leads to a collapse of our population. And this is more or less what it looks like, okay? That's more or less the history of almost any species, okay? This is what the curve looks like. A species starts out for a long, long period of time where births are greater than deaths, okay? They're approximately equal to deaths. So births slightly are higher than deaths. At some point, births way close to the end of the species life, by the way. The births become less, approximately equal to deaths, but a little lower, and then eventually we have the births much greater, much less than deaths. We have lots of deaths and few births. So that's what a population curve looks like for almost any species. Okay, and so guess where we're at now? We're at that zenith there, where we're turning that corner, that curve on the top, and we're about to go extinct. Okay, that's my take on that. So no. Population doesn't always go in cycles. It goes in cycle only until the population pyramid or the demographic pyramid overturns. Once it does for any species, it can't overturn. It can't overturn again. It can't undo that. It's that at that point it just goes into extinction. Okay, and that's what's happening to humans now. We overturned the population pyramid in 1963 for the planet as a whole, and from there on, we only can go down. Means our population is increasing, but the population growth rate is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller until it goes down to zero. And then from there it goes negative. Okay? That's the idea. Okay, a fellow says, there will never be a time when nobody accepts money, at least crypto. I know a bunch of people who will always accept money. That includes me. Okay, I'll buy your car, and I want to give you my shirt. It's a little dirty and it's got holes in it, but hopefully you'll take it because anything can be used as money. Okay, and so I want to use that as money. I want to buy your car. Will you accept my shirt? You might say, well, I don't want your shirt. Yeah, but it's money because anything can be used as money. But you don't like that? I'll give you some Vietnamese money. Will you accept that instead? No? How about I'll give you limestone, prime limestone, okay? Rocks, good rocks, okay? Limestone rocks. Will you accept that? And you might say, no, I don't want any of those things. Well, I thought you said that you'll accept money, any kind of money. And you say crypto. Well, do you think if you would have offered crypto to Ruth in the Bible, who worked for barley for food? She worked in the fields, collected barley, and then she was given a little bit of barley to take home to hers for herself and her mother-in-law. Both of them were widows. And do you think she would have accepted crypto? Or even worse, or better, you could say, what if you say, look, I'll offer you 10 euros. Upside down. I'll offer you 10 euros if you work the fields for me. And she says, you're going to offer me a piece of paper? Yeah, but see, this is 10 euros. You can buy a lot of stuff with that. That's just a piece of paper, objectively, right? Do you think she would have accepted paper 2,000 plus years ago? Probably not. And likewise, today I don't think women will work for barley. Not even the prostitutes will go for barley. Will work for food? I don't think so. So all that is contextual. And crypto is just a number, in the matrix out there. I don't know if people will want to, as long as you have faith in crypto, yeah, you can do something with it. But if nobody accepts crypto tomorrow, why would you want to have this number in floating around in cybernetics? That's nothing. It's just faith. Money is just faith. Trust. In God we trust, right? That's all money is. So to say that you will always accept money, that you'll always accept crypto, well, think again. All these people have been brainwashed so much with money, with the world we have today, they cannot think outside of that. Go and offer crypto, go and offer 10 euros, dollar bill or a dollar bill or whatever, to a pygmy that's hunting out there in the jungles. Offer him a little piece of paper and say, look, I'm going to give you 10 euros. I'll give you 100 if you catch, an elephant for me. The guy says, what? You're going to give me a piece of paper? I give you an elephant, you give me a piece of paper? You think I'm crazy or what? See, people like this fellow, the ship sinks. And, while Bill Gaede goes in there and goes to the kitchen and grabs all the food he can get to go to the island, this guy grabs the treasure chest. He might even sink in the ocean trying to grab that treasure chest. And he swims with this all the way to the island. He says, I got the treasure chest. What's he going to do with a treasure chest on an island? These people don't understand that. When the global economy collapses, when money is no more, that's what I mean by global economy collapsing. Money is no more. Nobody accepts money. You can have all the crypto, all the dollar bills, you can be a millionaire. It's going to be worthless garbage that you hold. The only thing of value in a jungle is food. In the asphalt jungle, the only thing of value is food. You don't have food? What was the show in the 1960s? Have food, will travel. That's more or less the way it's going to be. You don't have food? Well, it's going to be the difference between the haves and the have-nots. The haves will be those that have food, and the have-nots will be those that don't. And they'll be known as dead. Okay, but this fellow, it'll take a while for him to understand all that. Okay, final issue, fellow says, what do you think of Terramata hut? Okay, did Heidelbergensis and Neanderthals have huts with wood and skins? Well, all I can do is give you my 5 cents worth. This so-called hut is allegedly anywhere between 200 and 400,000 years ago, depending on who you talk to, depending on who you believe. And there are different takes on that. What they found is a few stones there and so on. And some people say that they belong to different ages. First of all, that the river kind of took them into this place. And so you got different ages in the same location. And the guy who studied these for the first time, he said, oh, stones, some other things there. And he says, with this, he concluded, he inferred that someone had built a hut there. And I think very few people accept that in general. And one of them is me. I don't go for that. I don't think that 200 to 400,000 years ago, whether Heidelbergensis or Neanderthalensis built huts. I think especially Neanderthals and certainly even their ancestors, the or predecessors, the antecessors, or the Heidelbergs, or the Homo erectus. Um, None of them built huts. I think they all lived in caves. That's what I think. That's how they sought protection. And they guarded their territories where they hunted, and their enemies were other Neanderthals, other Heidelbergs, other Homo erectuses, and they protected their hunting grounds. And where they lived was a hut, a cave, not a hut. So I don't think they built huts. That's my take on that. And I don't know. Maybe there was some exception, some Neanderthal that ventured into no man's land, and he kind of had to protect himself from the rain or from lightning, and maybe built something, makeshift tent of some kind. Could have happened, but I don't think it was the norm if it ever happened. Again, my take on that. 5 cents worth.